So, in a world full of super-powered hunters, there was this one guy, Jinwoo, who was, famous for being the absolute weakest of them all. Seriously, he was a total running joke, an E-ranker who almost died in the easiest dungeons. But then one mission went completely sideways, and something impossible happened that changed absolutely everything.
And that brings us to the big question, right? The one that has everyone from the Hunters Association to the other survivors completely scratching their heads. After this insane event that gets called the Double Dungeon Massacre, an E-rank hunter, a guy who is basically powerless, walks away without a single scratch. How on earth did that happen?
The whole mystery really kicks off when Jinwoo wakes up in a hospital. He's been out cold for 3 days after the incident, but when he looks himself over, he's perfectly fine. The leg that was torn up, the wounds in his chest, all of it, just gone. I mean, that alone shouldn't be possible.
Of course, this immediately sets off all the alarm bells. The Hunters Association sends in their top investigator, Woo Jinshul, to figure out what's going on. And from his perspective, none of the facts are adding up. Jinshul's conclusion is simple. Based on the power level of the monsters in that dungeon, a hunter as weak as Jinwoo just shouldn't have made it out alive. It's a total contradiction.
And you've got to understand, this incident was an absolute bloodbath. Out of a whole party of pretty experienced hunters, only 6 people made it out alive. The sheer number of casualties really drives home how suspicious Jinwoo's survival really is.
And this is where it gets even weirder when you compare him to the other survivors. These were hunters way stronger than him, and they all paid a huge price. Mr. Chiyo lost an arm and had to retire. Juhee, a B-rank healer, was so traumatized she might never go into a dungeon again. And Jinwoo, he's in perfect health. To top it all off, when the recovery team finally got there, the inner chamber of the dungeon had just vanished. So you've got this impossible puzzle, right? The Hunters Association is grasping at straws, and they land on the one and only explanation they can think of, a super rare phenomenon that basically every hunter dreams about. It's called a reawakening. It's this incredibly rare event where a hunter's hidden power just explodes, smashing through all their old limits. It's literally the only known way for a hunter to get stronger after their powers first appear. So the theory was, Jinwoo must have had a reawakening in that dungeon, and that's what gave him the power to survive.
Okay, so they bring in a special device to measure his magic power to see if this theory holds up. Everyone's expecting to see the numbers just skyrocket. But the reality? His mana level came in at a pathetic 10. Now, just for context, a normal E rank is around 70. So this score makes him even weaker than before. He's barely different from a regular person. The reawakening theory? Yeah, that was officially dead in the water. So the authorities are left with a complete dead end, a total mystery. But while they're totally stumped, Jinwoo himself is about to stumble upon the real answer. And believe me, it's something nobody could have ever seen coming. As he's just lying there in his hospital bed, this thing just appears. A glowing screen floating right in front of his face, like something out of a video game. He even asks his sister Jinna if she can see it, but she just looks at him like he's crazy. He's the only one. The secret is just for him. Once he figures out how to check his messages, he gets hit with the basic rules of his new life. This system, as it calls itself, is designed to help him grow. But here's the catch. This help is not optional. Rule 2 makes it crystal clear. Disobey and there will be penalties. This isn't just a gift, it's more like a contract with some terrifyingly high stakes. And he doesn't have to wait very long to find out what penalties really means. The system immediately gives him his first command, a mandatory task it calls the daily quest. And this is where his new reality just gets absurd. The quest demands this crazy intense workout. 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 100 squats, and on top of all that, a 10-kilometer run. For a guy who just woke up from a coma, a guy famous for being physically weak, this is completely impossible. So naturally, he just blows it off as a hallucination. Big mistake. The second that quest timer hits 0, the floor under his hospital bed literally opens up and he gets dropped into a penalty zone. Imagine a huge desert where you're being hunted by giant, horrifying centipedes for 4 straight hours. He barely made it out alive. The lesson was learned loud and clear. This system does not bluff. But on the other hand, when he finally does manage to complete the brutal quest, the rewards are instant. His exhaustion completely disappears, he gets these points he can use to upgrade his stats, and he gets a random box with a mystery item inside.
This sets up the core loop that he's now stuck in: finish the quest and get stronger, or fail and face absolute terror. After a few days of this insane routine, Jinwoo starts to accept what's happening. And actually, it's more than just acceptance. He starts to see it for what it is: a one-of-a-kind chance to finally change his life. For the first time in his entire life, Jinwoo has a way to actually improve. See, every other hunter's power level is set in stone from the start, but not his. He can actively get stronger by spending these stat points. He puts 1 point into strength and immediately feels a real physical change. Hope, something he probably hasn't felt in years, starts coming back. And this really gets to his core motivation. Why does he risk his life as a hunter in the first place? It's to pay his mom's insane medical bills. She has this rare, magic-caused illness called eternal slumber, and medicine can only keep her alive. So this system, it's not just a game to him. It's his one and only shot at saving his family and finally escaping that humiliating title of the weakest. Then, one of his random box rewards is different. It's a key to what's called an instance dungeon, basically a private dungeon that only he can get into. This is clearly the next step in his training, a real test of the new strength he's been building up. He decides he has to take the risk. He uses the key at a subway station, and this glowing blue gate just appears. He takes a deep breath and steps through, and the gate vanishes right behind him. A message pops up. He can't leave until he defeats the dungeon's boss. He's trapped, all alone, no backup, no healer, and no way out but to fight his way through. And that's where we leave him. I mean, think about it. Sung Jinwoo spent his whole life as a punchline, a hunter who was a danger to himself more than anyone else. But now, he has a secret that breaks every single rule of his world. So the real question isn't how he survived anymore. It's what can he become with a power that no one else has? What are the limits for a hunter who can just level up forever?